Emil Guillermo. Stop. Tell your friends. Let them know we're live. Wherever you find us, on Twitter, formerly known as X. Oh, no, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Emil Amok, or on YouTube at youtube.com/at Emil Amok 1. That's their nomenclature. At Facebook. There's still people on Facebook. We're at fb.com, facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media, or on Facebook, just go to my name. There I be. And you should see something there saying, we're live, we're live. Tell your friends. Professor Dan's going to be here with me talking about the news. There's so much news this week. So much news to talk about. And just today, a big major event. But before I get to that, you should also go to my new column I put up. This is show 638, but there's show 637 and 636 where I talk about this. I talk about federal judge Florence Pan, Circuit Court, D.C., second highest court in the land. And I praise her as an Asian American hero, Asian American democracy hero, for her questioning this week of Donald Trump's lawyers that really, if it weren't for her questions, people still wouldn't be talking about Donald Trump's attempt to claim presidential immunity for anything after he's gone, for actions that he committed or did under his official capacity as president. I mean, that hearing was this week. And if it weren't for Judge Pan's incisive questioning, sometimes you wonder, that person has no answers, only has the questions. But if you ask the questions well, it elicits answers that give you all you need to know about the intent of, in this case, former President Donald Trump and his claim of presidential immunity. So go to my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, ALDEF, aaldef.org/blog. After this, we'll talk about it with Professor Dan. But Judge Pan, man, she was on it. She was on it, and because of her questions, people, I think, have a much better grip on what Donald Trump is up to, including Republicans who, going into the Republican primary, the Iowa caucuses, it's not a primary, the Iowa caucuses are, most of the people in Iowa are ready just to coronate Donald Trump, which is probably the idea behind pressing for a claim of presidential immunity. Anyway, my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. I'll talk to Professor Dan about this in a second and some other things. I also want to mention how we're going to talk more about Joe Coy's week. He had a week. Joe Coy performing at the Golden Globes. Everyone, of course, is dumping on him, especially on social media, but not I. I am defending Joe Coy. And go to my columns on the ALDEF blog or on the Inquirer.net. And I say this because, not that I'm a stand-up. I mean, I have stood up and I have performed and I have told jokes in front of a crowd, some of whom have chosen not to laugh. So I empathize with Joe Coy. And I know what he's going through. I mean, I've even spoken to a crowd bigger than the room that he was in at the Beverly Hilton, because I have hosted a show there and have told a few duds. And it was back early in the 2000s, Beverly Hilton, a New California Media Awards program there. And it's a smaller room than you think. I know what it's like to bomb in that room. So I share my perspective there on my columns. I'll talk about it with Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez as well. But I want to segue into, before we get into the meat of this, the fact that my one-man shows that I do, where I tell the aforementioned jokes, or some of them, I'm performing again around the country, notably in New York City and in Fresno, California. Yeah, Fresno, they have a Rogue Festival, a fringe festival. They call it the Rogue Festival. Saturday, March 2nd, 2 shows, 2 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Sunday, March 3rd at 2 p.m. Thursday, the 7th, March 7th, and Saturday, March 9th. It's a great festival. I'll be there. Hope you can make it there if you're in California. It's in Fresno, the Rogue Festival. March 2nd is the opening date. And I'm there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 performances. And then in New York City, I'll be at the same place, underground, under St. Mark's, Friday, April 5th, Monday the 8th, Saturday, April 13th, Friday the 19th, and Sunday, April 21st in New York City, under St. Mark's in the East Village. I like to go there. And it's a small, intimate underground theater. I do my show. I'm doing a new iteration of my show. Emil, Amok, Lost NPR host. Catch it. And those are 2 festivals. A third festival coming up, the Orlando Fringe Festival, which is the biggest theater festival in the United States. Yeah, it's big, and I've been there before. I love the Orlando Fringe Festival. I'll be there in May. So all that coming up. More details as we come. Where you can get tickets and how to get there, and what I'm going to do. More of that as we get to closer to those dates. All right. So let me bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, professor of ethnic studies, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. Hi, Dan.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well,
Good to see you. Good to see you, dude.
yeah, good to see you. I wanted to talk to you because the big news of the day. I mean, I was doing other things all morning, writing things, putting things on the web. And then I pick up the paper. Usually it's the other way around. You get it from the web and then you go to the paper. But my New York Times was like all blown up with the Houthis story, and the U.S. and U.K. attack, the U.S. and its allies. That's the U.K. attacking the Houthis around the Red Sea in Yemen, and it's a big deal. And I know a lot of people. I mean, no one wanted this war. I mean, the New York Times said this is the war no one wanted. It's here. But the minute you talk to anyone who's sort of like, has been following what's been going on in the Mideast, they'll say, oh, this is the thing that could lead to an escalation of what's going on in the Middle East. What say you, Professor Dan?
Definitely. The Houthi movement is an interesting one. I mean, it really is relatively recent. It's about 30 years old or so. Started in the 1990s, but it was part of the series of rebellions that occurred, not only through all of the Arabic regions, right, from North Africa all the way over to Yemen and beyond. Iraq, Syria. Anyway, they've been a pain in Saudi, um, physical being
Yeah.
for a long time, and the Saudis have been using American weaponry to bombard the Houthis off and on, right? And so there's no love lost there between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and it's resulted in a substantial exile
Yeah.
from Yemen to other places in the world, including Europe. And here to the United States, there's a Yemeni community in the Tenderloin.
But you know what you're saying though in just those opening seconds, you're suggesting that now we're already in bed with the Saudis,
Yeah,
but this implants us even more.
I wish you hadn't used the bed thing, but yeah.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that, and so to get to my question, this could be the thing that escalates everything in the Middle East. Huh?
it could, but it all comes down to what the Iranians want to do, and I don't think Iran want anything that approaches a direct confrontation with the U.S. or any of its allies. So
So by doing what it did, the U.S. and the U.K. together, the U.S. and its allies, strategic strike to send
yes,
a message, a loud
absolutely,
message.
absolutely. Now, I tend to identify with and agree with most positions taken by people who consider themselves progressive and even radical. Okay,
Right.
but one of the problems that I've always had with my own personal stance on many of these issues, and also the professional position that I have to take as a professor, right, is that I am not anti-military in the sense that a lot of my very progressive colleagues are. They are anti military to the point that they don't like, for example, in San Francisco, remember the battle over ROTC?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I differ with my colleagues in that regard. Um, Not just about ROTC, but about militarism. It's like Ghostbusters, man. Who are you going to call? Right? I mean,
Well,
all
yeah.
nations need, everybody needs a defense. We all depend on a police force. We may not like the way police manage their business, and we may want to correct that, but we have to pay the price if we want to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
we have to pay attention. That's number one, and we have to be active through our representatives. That's number two. And we're all reactionary. I mean, we call the right reactionary, but the left is just as reactionary in most
Well,
counties.
the reason why we're bringing this up, this tail end in about progressives, is because I asked if this was a strategic strike, and you said yes. But there are some among the progressives. I mean, there are some Republicans and Democrats who are praising Joe Biden now for doing what he's done. But there are progressives who are saying, "Hey, you should come to Congress if you're going to do this stuff."
Yeah, that's fine. They should. As a matter of democratic practice, not Democratic Party, but practicing democracy. Right?
Mm,
We're supposed to have, yeah, separation of powers. It doesn't mean competition for power among the branches. It rather it also means that there should be cooperation among the branches. Right? And
yeah,
so, to be cooperative, the executive offices, right, which include the president and all that, the entirety of the executive offices should have informed the Congress as much as possible. Now, I don't know that they weren't informed because the place that I would have made this statement would be to a high security group, okay,
right.
because you don't want it leaking out what exactly you're going to do.
Well,
Um,
that you make an excellent point. They could have been told, and they could have been told, you can't say anything till we do it.
that's right.
And then, so I think that is probably more the case. But
Yeah,
still, the fact that they said we're going to do this and we're not going to go to Congress before, I, you know, I'm sort of on the side that they should have come before or Biden, and I guess it wouldn't have been this Defense Secretary Austin, right? I mean, he's sort
yeah,
of
that's
he's
another problem.
yeah, he's a little under the weather right now.
Well, I thought you were going to raise that.
Well, I chose not really to talk about that too much because it's a personal thing, and although it's going to probably it's
Uh,
not a personal thing when there's a big major something happening,
hey,
but
hey, man, you're the secretary and the chief of all military. I mean, come on, dude,
yeah, yeah, all
dude.
right. You got to talk about it. I think I was a little upset when I first heard about it, and when it was
About
so
well,
secret
upset in which
about us.
direction? That you're critical. You
Yeah,
should
I
have.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was, but I wanted to refrain until if nothing was going on, no harm, no foul. However, now we have this, and there is no such thing as no harm, no foul.
Well,
So,
yeah, but there's some people, and I don't know if it's coming from the right or the left. Okay, it could foreseeably come from both sides, but there's some people who are saying, how do we know that all this aggression that's being performed by all these smaller groups, you know, uh, keying on the U.S. relationship with Israel, right? How do we know that they're not escalating these attacks because they heard that we
oh,
got this weak spot up at the top, right, of
right,
our military command, and the relationship between the White House and the Pentagon, et cetera, and so forth.
right. Well, it's the same thing like how Israel got caught flat-footed, and
Yeah, but that I don't believe that. I believe that Netanyahu thought that having Hamas act as the enemy would help him stay in
oh,
power.
I
So
I see that. I see that because the fact that he knew ahead means that
how about
chances are
yeah?
he had more
What about
reason to
funding
manipulate.
Hamas?
Yeah,
Yeah, how about funding Hamas? I mean, it's
yeah,
pretty obvious.
yeah.
You
All
know,
right. No, I see your point there. I just think that for most Americans going into the long weekend, this is the sort of thing that usually happens. Big news gets dumped on, or happens on Friday, gets dumped on Saturday. More widely, people see if they even read the news
that's right. Or watch
or
the
watch it on TV.
television. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, well, the best talk shows are on the weekend. So
yeah. Well, on Sunday, yeah, all the policy stuff. Well, so what do you suppose is going to happen from here? I mean, cat's out of the bag. We're out there. We've
well, the Houthis are saying, first of all, you got to look at whether or not the um, the military action was successful. Was it effective? Okay, and we won't know until the Houthis start trying to shoot back again, and they're swearing that they're going to take revenge, right? Because according to their account, 5 people were killed. I'm surprised it was that low, given the number of hits, right?
yeah,
That the combined put out, and anyway, so I'm surprised it was that low, but they're saying they're going to fight back. Well, that's fine. Will they be able to attack shipping in the Red Sea as frequently and with they didn't have great effectiveness, right? But they were
right,
enough of a threat that it routed everybody around the Horn of Africa, right? Which drives costs up for everybody, makes folks really vulnerable because now they're understanding how vulnerable they are at the Straits, entering the Red Sea, and at the Suez Canal, right? So I really, as an internationalist, right, I'm really happy that this happened because it draws people attention to the importance of our global interdependency, right?
yeah. And yet, Dan, you mentioned this, you as an internationalist, but the rank and file in terms of Americans, people might be listening here, generally not internationalists.
No, no.
Generally, don't care about what's going on
Well,
over there.
there are immigrant communities that are international in the sense that they're always looking over their shoulder at where they came from.
Mhm.
Okay, especially the first generation arrivals, right? We call them first generation. And also, if there's a younger generation among that first generation, they also are very much oriented. Uh, at least half of their thinking, right, is influenced by where they came from. So it's the second generation of the people who were born here, and third, fourth, and following, that have less of an influence from what's happening in their parents' and grandparents' home country, right? And more of an interest in what's going on in the United States. However, they're missing even that element of an international connection that their grandparents and parents had as immigrants. That's the problem. We don't teach it that way. We don't start kids off that way,
Yeah.
right? In our educational system, and it's really problematic.
Well, I don't think most American students could point out where Yemen is. on the map.
Well, I would be surprised if they could point out what freaking Arabia was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing about Americans. We don't have that.
Geographically challenged.
Yeah, not just geographically challenged. We don't know the issues of the world. We don't know the
Yeah,
stories,
yeah.
and there's a lot of people. And I'm not. I don't want to just dump on a younger generation. There's many in the
No,
older
no, hell
generation.
no, no, no. This
Yeah.
isolation is all the way up the scale, right?
Right.
And in
And
every generation and among all groups,
that's
it's
the word,
isolation.
isolationists.
Yep.
We're isolationists because you know what? We got it good. We got our 401k. The S&P 500 was good.
And
Everything's good,
no,
except we
that's not
feel
what they're
bad.
saying though. They're contradicting that. They're
Right.
saying we're good, we're better than everybody else, but then they bitch about the economy when the
Right.
economy is relatively
Right.
good. So
We're
they're
better.
contradicting the reality, right?
Yeah. We're better than everyone, but we feel bad. We feel bad because the world isn't just seen through the stock market.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
We just
a,
feel
a
bad.
place called Great Britain made that mistake.
Yeah. Well, isn't it funny? Isn't
That
it
was
funny?
another incidence of coitus interruptus,
Yeah.
right? They wanted to get out of the EU.
Well, isn't it funny though, Dan, that the U.S. ally here is the U.K.
Yeah,
participating in this
long
strike.
history of activity in the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, it's like the U.S. took over when the U.K. fell. When the UK was no longer the empire, when it's no
Right.
longer the British Empire, where they're no longer the colonizers of the world.
Well, but
Yeah.
yeah, but there were partners in all that stuff of
Yeah.
carving Persia up.
Right. Right.
There were
That's it.
partners in creating the state of Israel.
And they're not really beholden in terms of trying to undo some of the bad things that they created. So
Well, they've now fed the beast, right?
yeah.
They have fed the beast, and you keep doing that, and you get very predictable results.
Yeah.
I'm laughing about it, but it's really rather tragic. You know,
Well, it is because it takes generations to undo, and who knows where we're going forward. You look at the leadership and you look at the 2024 elections, even here at the US. I was thinking, all right, we know what Joe Biden will do because we just saw he take a strategic strike with the UK
Mhm.
into Yemen. What would a President Donald Trump do? A President Donald Trump who this week we know he wants full immunity for anything that he does in an official capacity.
Yeah, we're moving there now. That was a nice transition. I like that. That is really
Well, that's why I'm a professional broadcaster. That's why you just can't like fall off the truck and say, "Yeah, let's do a show." You got you've done a few shows.
Hey, I don't know. There's a whole lot of people on Fox News that seem to fall off trucks all the time, man.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, the blonde ones, they fall off the blonde truck. So all
The
right, so
ones with the
Dan,
sewn-in seam in their slacks,
yeah. So Dan, this whole thing about what Donald Trump would or wouldn't do,
Oh my God.
he doesn't care what it is. He'll do anything he wants because he claims presidential immunity. That was the big hearing
That's
today,
it.
or not
That's
today,
it.
this week.
And he's been consistently saying that. Okay,
Yeah.
he's been saying that ever since the threat, the mere threat
Mm,
of prosecution arose.
mm.
And
Yeah.
there's four separate
Yeah,
sets of
criminal.
indictments, right?
Yeah.
But when the mere threat arose, for the original stuff was civil liability, right? It was
Right.
defamation.
Right.
And
Well, now
immunity.
he's all right. So the hearing this week in front of the D.C. Circuit Court, which is the second highest court in the land,
Hey, yeah,
and
yeah.
I wrote a piece about Judge Florence Pan, who I think
Oh
all
man,
Americans,
she was kick booty boy.
yeah,
She was really good.
all Americans should thank Judge Pan, excuse me, because she knew precisely the question to ask that would expose the real intent of what Donald Trump really wants to do. And she asked the SEAL Team 6 question.
That's right.
You know, I mean, in history, it will be known as the SEAL Team 6 question.
Are
And
you going to show it or are you going to read it?
I'm just going to read it, and
Okay.
it
Go
says
ahead.
she asked,
I was hoping you'd show it because man, that was really good.
yeah, could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act, an order to SEAL Team 6. She asked that of the Trump attorney, John Sauer, and Sauer said he would have to be and would speedily be impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution. And then Judge Pan says, but if he weren't, there would be no criminal prosecution or criminal liability for that. And then the Sauer goes into some kind of gobbledygook and doesn't really make sense. He mentions,
Well, no, all he did was reiterate in different words the precondition, and the precondition would be a conviction by the Senate.
right.
So
And
that's
so,
all he did. He just and lawyers do that all the time. If you didn't get the argument the first time I said it the way I said it the first time, I'm going to make the same damn argument. I'm just going to use different words, and that's what he did.
yeah. So he cited the Chief Justice's opinion on Marbury and the language of impeachment
We're going to go back to
judgment
Marbury.
clause. All
Oh
right.
my God.
But then Pan says, I asked you a yes/no question, and that this is always what lawyers do when you're coming up to a pile of BS. You say, "Look, I asked you a yes/no question. I asked you a yes/no question. Could
Yeah.
a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, could he be subject to criminal prosecution?"
Yeah.
And the Trump
He
attorney,
said essentially,
well, he
is
said,
your question, is your answer yes or no?
"Yeah,
Is it? And she said, your answer therefore is a no. And he kept on dancing, right?
yeah." He
That's a
says,
no, right?
"No." He says, "My answer is a
Is a
qualified
qualified
yes,"
yes.
which I think smart people would know means no. But you see, this is the questioning heard round the world among rational people.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I mean,
I felt for the guy. In a way, I felt for the guy, right? Because this was like
yeah,
I don't know if while he was saying it, it was like barbed wire being pulled across his haunches, right? But I certainly know that after this, and especially when he sees it on
yeah,
TV, and when he sees what people do to him, right?
wow.
This guy's otherwise positive reputation, right, is really at stake.
Well, Sour
Okay.
is his name, and I guess he was soured afterwards. But, but
Yes.
here's the thing.
He was not just sorry, he was bitter.
Yeah, the qualified yes when is really a shameful way of saying no. I think as I point out in my ALDEF column on Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, aaldef.org/blog, I said, this is when everyone, it's like, oh, this is what Donald Trump wants. This is where hopefully all voters finally understood what's going on when you hear Donald Trump talk about presidential immunity, because he's to this day is saying, yes, I need immunity. How am I going to do anything and not worry about? Well, this is why we have, the Constitution, so you can't just do anything. But he's asking if a president could get rid of political opponents by killing them legally. And this really isn't a hypothetical question for a would-be dictator, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
and you would suppose, now look, say you like Trump, and a lot of people in the Asian American community like him, and they'll go to bat for him. They might say, well, the president is the commander in chief of the military, and we have to protect our democracy. So, but we do have a constitution.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, well, that thing. And you know what happens when you have an authoritarian ruler who, dumps on the Constitution and turns his or her democracy into a perverted one, like the former colony, the Philippines, where you have former president in the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, who has already admitted that extrajudicial killings in his government war on drugs were his only sin. That's what he said. But if you go to human rights advocates, they say, yeah, those extrajudicial killings under Duterte can be anywhere from more than 12,000 to up to nearly 30,000, as one of his jailed political opponents has said. So I don't know, Dan. If I were Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is, I can imagine him saying, "Look, I'd only kill just a few dozen.
Yeah, and only on the first day.
Only on the first
I
day.
would only be a dictator for the first day, just day one.
Don't look at me and think I'm going to kill thousands.
Yeah.
Just a few dozen. Just a
Yeah.
few dozen."
Yeah.
And then yesterday, his lawyer, or one of his lawyers, Alina Habba.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, she went on a right-wing talk show and said about Donald Trump, he didn't kill anyone. He didn't kill anyone. Well, not yet, right? I mean,
that we know of.
Yeah, not that we know of. And so that's why I wrote the column, just to point out that it's not so hypothetical. It's not so out of it's not something that couldn't happen. It may have been a hypothetical and it hasn't happened, but Donald Trump is aiming for a kind of democracy that does not look like the democracy we have now.
Yeah. I mean, you're raising another aspect, and which is who qualifies as a democracy, and a lot of the socialist governments that were part of the old Soviet Union all called themselves democracies. Eastern Germany was GDR, the German Democratic Republic. PDR, Polish Democratic Republic. So if there's socialist societies, and we identify socialist societies as Americans, we identify them as authoritarian, right? And centralized government, very in terms of what we consider essential freedoms of a real democracy. How do they get away with it? How can they call themselves a democracy?
Well, I guess Turkey would be the same way, right?
Yes, and the
Turkey,
Philippines.
they have a president.
How do you call them a democracy? And it's real simple. They say democracy is majority rule. Real simplistic statement. It's majority rule. Yeah, but a majority of whom? And in the Soviet governments and societies, it was a majority of the Communist Party.
Yeah.
So you had to be a member of the Communist Party to have voting rights. Okay. So in the Philippines, it's a democracy, and there is majority rule. But then there are all different ways of affecting how the people vote at the ground level. Then there's the issue of ballot maintenance, and the integrity of ballots, and the whole collection and counting process.
But
So
Dan, the United States is supposed to be. I mean, we define what ideal democracy should be.
yeah, but we keep sneaking ballots in, fake ballots, through suitcases.
Yeah.
Right. And
So we're not perfect.
We allow voting by mail. That's completely friggin' insane.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see. Several states have been doing it successfully for over 40 years, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not democratic.
Yeah. Well, and see, here's the thing about our democracy as we define it now, that the reason why we have such ineffective government is because of our rules that protect the minority, which says, yes, it's majority rules, but we give enough power to the minority so they can stop things cold.
Well, we're still in the minority as racial and cultural groups, right?
Right.
Okay. But when did that aspect of the Constitution ever favor us?
I can't.
Did we ever stop this society cold when it was in concentrating people of Japanese descent?
All right. You're right.
Against due process, all due process, right?
All right, but when I was thinking about minority rule, I was thinking more of like, Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema. I was thinking about.
Okay, no, that's an excellent
minority.
Point. Yes, it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. But the question then is, why were they able to do that? Why is it that a minority of voters in American society, right, can still elect a Trump. Why is that? Okay. He lost by twice as many votes in 2020, and he never won the popular vote. Okay. So that means it's an instrument within the structure, right, of American government. And that instrument is the Electoral College.
Right.
Okay. And that's where lesser populated states actually have a huge influence over the outcome of a presidential election. The 2000 election that
Right.
was contested. Okay. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Democratic nominee said, okay, that's enough. There's enough counting going on. And he yielded. If it hadn't been for that, we could have approached a constitutional crisis. Okay. So it was because a person said, that's enough. We really don't want to endanger the unity of the society over this issue. So we're going to have to say that's enough.
Yeah.
Now, was he making an intelligent statement based on probably what he understood was going on the ground and the likelihood that, yeah, the Florida vote went for Bush? Yes. Okay. But remember the whole thing about how to count the ballots and
Oh
hang
yeah, the
chads.
jazz. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people nowadays barely understand or reflect on that.
Yeah. Well, I just think that
I don't think they
we
reflect on it at all. And then how about who set the precedent for if the president does it, it's not illegal?
Nixon.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And when was that? He was in office from 68 to 74 when he resigned to avoid the possibility of impeachment. And then, because now he is a free soul right out there with no shield, right? No immunity, okay? He was pardoned. He was
Yeah.
pardoned. And so he retired with all the respective honors and graces and privileges of a retired president. Even though it was everybody in his West Wing got burnt for committing crimes and
Yeah.
actually did time in jail.
Yeah. Well, Trump is. There's only been four people who've ever been impeached, and Trump has
Two of
been
them.
impeached twice.
He was
Yeah.
twice.
He's two of them. Yeah, but no one has ever been convicted, which
Yeah, but they're
is.
going to get Joe. They're going to get Joe. They're going to impeach Joe, man.
Oh yeah. Well, see, this is the other thing
The
where.
American public is going to sweep the Republicans
Yeah.
into
It's.
office, and not only is Trump going to be free as a bird, right? They're
Yeah,
going to they're going to prosecute Joe for crimes he committed while he was president.
right. I mean, impeachment all around.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. Well, we got
That's
to
the
be
crazy
fair.
thing about when people, you know, like when they can't get past this. Uh, we disagree. I must destroy you, or we disagree.
Yeah,
I must.
that's the scary part, right? It's not a majority of Americans that believe that, but
Yeah.
there's a large enough segment of American society that is angry, that is violence prone in their anger, right? And you hear me say this all the time, and they got guns,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they like threatening people. They like inferring, "Hey, man, we're coming for you." Look at all we're gonna talk about swatting, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so yeah, let's move to the swatting idea because this is the important thing about judges. Like, it hasn't happened to Judge Pan yet, but it has happened to some of the other judges
Yeah,
or cases.
Erdogan.
Yeah, right.
Erdogan just got a bomb threat, right? Just
Yeah,
yesterday.
and then Chutkin,
Yes,
she
Chucking got the threats.
she got a threat, and then Smith, the prosecutor, Jack Smith, got a swatting. Now, I'd never heard of swatting, but swatting. I mean,
Really?
I heard about it. I just didn't. I've heard it commented, and I didn't really know what it was. But it's calling in a false alarm, right? On someone.
Well, specifically, it's calling in the kind of crime that involves the degree of violence that would cause the SWAT team, the special weapons
Um,
groups, to come out. That's where swatting comes from.
right. And
So
then
you
the
would have
SWAT.
to say there's a shooting going on, shots fired, right?
Mm,
And we haven't heard anything since those shots were fired, and so they send out SWAT right away.
right. And SWAT. they're not the most congenial. They just come in and they just do the. I mean, I've had relatives on the SWAT team.
There you go.
They get kind of brutal and nasty to the bad guys because they're there to enforce the law and to be the good guys. But
Oh, hey, I
sometimes,
had a former student that became an officer, a police officer, and this is the way he would say hi. He'd
mm,
say, "Hey, hi, how's it going?" And I said, "Is that finger loaded?" You know, I really
yeah,
did. I mean, as a
yeah,
joke, but that's the way he would say hi to people. Hey, how's it going? You know.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't like that trend. It seems like because Trump is going to be if he doesn't get immunity,
And he will not.
he's not
Yeah.
because anyone sane on both sides of the aisle say, oh, as soon as that argument was made, what about SWAT, SEAL Team 6? They just knew, oh, Trump is done.
Uh-oh.
Bad,
I like
bad,
that.
bad argument. But
Woohoo.
Trump is looking at this as his get out of jail free card. So he's gonna face all these trials, and so that
Well, and the
means,
reason he has to push it is because he sees it as the key to all of them.
yeah,
Because if he gets immunity on anything, he gets immunity on almost everything, and then it's over.
right, right. But
He's
now,
done, right? So it,
he's
it's going to happen.
if he doesn't
Question
get it,
is the Supreme Court going to decide on it? I don't think they will. I think it's going to be a case of push away. It's like people who have been served a piece of a meal that
yeah,
is grossly unappetizing simply from the way it looks and smells. It's the
yeah.
push away. They're going to say no,
Sorry,
no, thank you.
lower court. We
Yeah,
abide by the lower
appellate
court
court
good.
got it. Take the ball. Take the ball. Put it back on Chutkin, man.
Yeah.
You can
So,
proceed.
all right. So we had the civil fraud case. That's going to be decided by January 31st. The
Yep.
the
It's coming
case,
up quickly.
the trial is over.
Yep.
Uh,
Final
and
arguments have
and
been made.
remember, Trump's already been found guilty of fraud.
Right.
The question is, how many millions of dollars is going to be fined?
Yeah, it's up to
And
370 now.
yeah, up to 370. And then how many? Is he going to be barred from doing business in New York?
Oh, that's
What do
the
you
big
think?
one.
What do you think?
That's the big one. The fines mean that he's probably going to sell stuff. All right. And then the funny thing is that the previous assessments done by the IRS and independent accountancy firms, right, uh, had showed what the real value of all of the properties
Yeah.
was. And I was doing a quick calculation. I said, you know what? Even if they only get like 250 million, it's all gone. All of the three of his major properties in New York City's gone, man. He's going to have to liquidate that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So he's
So
going to be holding some golf courses in Mar-a-Lago. You know, that's about it.
yeah, or maybe selling a lot of Trump steaks in the corners of New York. Trump
Yeah,
steaks.
I like the extra long ties, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
because it
yeah,
would cover your gonads. You know,
yeah, yeah,
for people of my height, you know,
yeah,
my
yeah.
diminutive status,
Oh, we're
yeah,
not that diminutive, no. But
it would hang
yeah,
all the way down there. I could, you know,
yeah,
I could go out as a local nudist
yeah, yeah.
and use that. Yeah,
I
you know.
noticed his ties. His ties are obscenely long. I think.
Well,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. So
because a regular tie, he's tall, right? He's over 6 feet. He's not as tall as over 6 feet as he says,
he
but what
says
happens is
he's like
the tie piles up on your gut.
because he's 6 feet tall and 6 feet wide as well. I think. All right. So all right,
He's
Dan.
6'6", huh?
We'll wait to see what happens with Trump. But the whole Judge Pan questioning
Oh, that was so
Trump to
cool.
me,
She was
that was
so
great.
good.
And I think here's the thing. I'm saying unless other candidates emerge, she's on the second highest court in the land. When an
Uh-oh.
opening comes up in the Supreme Court,
You're talking SCOTUS now.
well, I just think that people will remember her.
Oh, yeah.
This question,
Oh, yes, they will.
if our democracy survives, they will remember her
They're going to
as,
remember all three of the justices. I think that's a good point.
and
But
they were
her
good.
particularly because she was so aggressive and so effective. It's one thing to be aggressive, and it's another thing to realize effectively a goal, which
Yeah.
is the target of your aggression. And she won. She won
Well,
that sucker hands down.
the other thing is it was almost like a supreme example of, you know, moving things to the absurd. Uh,
Yeah,
putting,
but she didn't do that by asking the question. He did. He moved it to the absurd by giving that answer.
oh yeah, yeah, that was the answer was the absurd.
That's right.
She was just being extremely practical. All
Yeah,
right, to the president, order SEAL Team
that's
6
it.
to assassinate a political rival. That was just being practical. And the lawyer, when he said, "My answer is a qualified yes," I mean that you know that answer was absurd, absurd, and everyone knew the Republicans. No
Yeah,
one could
yeah.
defend it. How can anyone defend it? Not even the conservatives on the Supreme Court could defend that.
Well, Elaine Hubbard would defend it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he didn't kill anybody.
yeah.
Didn't kill anybody. Not yet. All right, so you know,
Elisa Stefanik would defend it, and she
Elise
would go as
Stefanik.
far
Oh
as
yeah,
say, "Yeah, immigrants are poisoning the blood,
yeah. Elise Stefanik she is just a
poisoning the blood."
total congressional sycophant of Trump. It is,
You know,
and she's a Harvard grad. She's a smart woman generally, but and she before she got Trump bit, she was just a normal kind of conservative, and then
she
suddenly,
was considered a moderate conservative, a
yeah,
thinking moderate conservative, and now she's a zombie. You
yeah,
know,
she is like, yeah, I don't understand. Uh,
I
anyway,
understand it. She bought in, and now she's stuck.
yeah, she can't get out. Well,
The whole Republican Party is stuck, man.
she
They're
wants
stuck.
she wants to be Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is nothing to aspire to. Believe me.
Well, MJT though, she got away with showing, a full frontal nude picture
Yeah,
at the congressional hearing, where Mr. Biden, you know, was sitting in the audience.
well, I
And so my question would, see, the Democrats responded to that, and they responded to Mace by saying, "You don't have any balls." Right? I mean, this is coming out of a congressional representative, a woman, female representative in Congress,
yeah.
and she's telling the guy, "You got no balls."
Oh, you're talking about
She
Mace
used that
Hunter
language.
Biden. Yeah.
She used that language, and then she said, does a woman have the right to speak here? Not like you, lady. Could you keep the vulgarity out of it?" And then MJT raises the picture of a nude Joe Biden Jr., right? They show
Hunter
a
Biden.
nude
Hunter Biden.
picture. I'm sorry, Hunter Biden Jr., right? Not Hunter Biden,
Hunter Biden.
not Junior. But I'm getting my juniors mixed up.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, and she says, "Yeah." And the guys, "Are we going to have this show of pornography?" And she said correctly, "Pornography," because it doesn't depict a
The
sexual
def-
act.
right. Or
You know,
nor
it
the definition of a prurient
Yeah, it's
matter.
stirring prurient interest,
Yeah.
and well, but see, the core element is, does it depict a sexual act? So if it doesn't depict an actual sexual act, then however stimulative it might be to the given audience, right, it doesn't qualify as pornographic.
Just an image. Just
But
an
so
image.
they started asking those kind of stupid questions. I would have asked her, "So did you enjoy that?"
Well, that's the thing. Most of the people who do these kind of investigations on our First Amendment are really secret pervs, secret perverts who just enjoy looking at this stuff far more than the public.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so
She loved it. And I
yeah,
thought, I would have said, "So what was your point? Are you trying to, what's the connection between this and some allegation of criminal behavior by Mr. Biden and his daughter, his dad, his father, the
yeah,
president of the United States?" You
they
know,
don't have anything. It's
well,
that's why I didn't even bother with the story. I mean, Hunter Biden is going to go down his path. It's not really relevant except for the fact that it takes up time and it seems to obsess the Republicans. And if only the Republicans can obsess for once on the people of the
well,
United States, I mean, that would be a good.
Southern California's deputy DOJ, right, is going to, Deputy Attorney General, is going to burn him, and he may do jail time
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
tax evasion.
Yeah. Down in L.A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens down there with Hunter Biden Jr. or Hunter Biden.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I keep doing that. I'm sorry I did
yeah.
that to you.
Yeah. You got me confused when you said Joe Biden earlier. I thought Joe Biden. She
Joe
held.
Biden Jr. I
Yeah.
look at him as Joe Biden Jr. Why? Because I mean, the genetic when you see them together, you can
Yeah.
tell they're father and son. I mean, it's
No, you can't. You can't. And part of me wonders if Joe Biden doesn't look at Hunter and say, "God, he's good. He could have been another me, but man, where did I screw up?" I mean, he's there to back his son, but part of me thinks a little disappointment that he's got to go through all this.
yeah, yeah. But he also understands that that stuff happens when you're around people of power.
Yeah,
People start getting arrogant, and they start throwing their weight around, and sometimes you get desperate. If the personal plan that Hunter had in his earlier life wasn't quite working out, then you start looking around for things that will work, and he found stuff that would work, but then he also found fame and glory and party.
yeah,
And partying can be a very, very seductive
yeah.
experience.
Well, proximity to power, right? Proximity
That's
to
where it
power,
is.
proximity to fame, and then you become famous yourself. That's why I like doing television news, low level fame. We get recognized at the Jollibee, but that's about it. Nothing more than that.
Well,
Yeah,
see, and yet we'll still be at risk that somebody will shoot our ass. That's the problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. All right, let's move to
That's
the
why I got
Iowa.
my peace symbol up, man.
Yeah,
Peace
I
out.
am. Yeah, me too. Peace, peace, man. I got my
Peace,
calendar.
man.
Hey, so let's move on to the Iowa primary because we'll be playing this through Monday. Uh, Trump is ahead, despite all the things that we've been saying about him in
Sure.
this hour.
Yeah, but it's
Uh,
Iowa.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's I see. I said it again. I said the Iowa primary meant the Iowa caucus, and it's
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a
But
bunch of people talking about
yeah, but at
do
their
what they
state
do.
fairs, Iowa, fried butter is a health food.
Yes,
I mean,
yes. I have a relationship with Iowa. I stayed there for 5 days in a hotel, waiting for my car to get a missing part. My car broke. I broke down in Iowa.
what kind of
And,
car was it?
my Prius. I broke down. I broke
Oh
down.
no,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
yeah. We were driving through cross country, and we hit a tumbleweed.
Oh
And
no.
the tumbleweed um, bled the water from our radiator until the car just died in Des Moines. And we were there, and this was July 4th, 2019.
Pre-COVID, just
Yeah,
before COVID.
pre-COVID. Yeah, pre-COVID. And July 4th, 2019 is like just before, it was into the holiday. We ended up getting stuck while they
Yeah, nothing's
now
open. It's Des Moines, man. They probably aren't open on Sundays.
the only thing, look, the good thing is that the car broke down right in like a parking lot, right at the door of Twin Peaks, which is the Midwestern version of Hooters. So it's not like anyone there was really helpful. I could say, "Hey, do you know anything? Do you have a radiator? Do you have
I wonder if in Wyoming they have a restaurant called the Grand Teton.
ground thing?" No. Apparently, this Twin Peaks it's a thing in the Midwest because I was told it wasn't like the David Lynch Twin Peaks.
I think.
But anyway, so
I think
I
breasts, I think breasts are a popular thing in more places than the Midwest.
yeah. Well, I experienced Iowa. I
What
experienced
did
Iowa.
Kathy have to say, man? That's got to be a story. You got to
Yeah,
save that for the next time we're out, man. You got.
yeah, yeah.
I,
Oh
I,
yeah,
I remember the breakdown now. I
yeah.
remember that, but I did not ever hear the part about Twin
The
Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Oh well, I had to go in and use the telephone. You know,
Here we
uh,
go.
yeah, no, no. It was
Did you buy a
interesting.
T-shirt?
I did. I did. I'll tell you
Oh,
something. I did not like Iowa as much as I had hoped to. Because I thought they would be they would be helpful. They'd see people stuck on the side of the road with their dogs, and they would like just show a lend a hand, and you know. But actually, the we did. Someone did drive up and say, "Can I help you?"
cool.
And so that was good. But anyway, long story. Ultimately, my idea of Iowa was not as great as I had hoped, and so when the caucuses come up every year or every 4 years, I think, God, I know these people a little bit. They want to be nice, but they're not really that nice. And then I hear their political views. I know they're not nice. I know that we would disagree. I went to a church looking for help. And that's how bad it was. I mean, I don't know if I was really looking for help. I was looking for a little charity, because I'm a stranger. I'm in Iowa. I'm a Filipino guy in Iowa, and uh, got nothing. I mean, really, like they were not charitable at all. And so, anyway, what do you think is going to happen to the
So do you think
caucuses?
they were seeing color? In a
Oh yeah, I
colorblind
think
society. It's a colorblind society. We
I
don't see
well,
race. Really?
come on, the Iowa, for being the first place to, along with New Hampshire, to weigh in on presidential politics. It's one of the widest states in the nation, and which is why Joe Biden was pushing for South Carolina first. Joe Biden was saying, "Hey, let's change this up." Uh, so I don't know. I think what's going to happen is I. What did you think about the debate this week? Did you think
Uh,
DeSantis
oh, you
did
mean
enough
yeah, the between
against Haley?
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think DeSantis is done, frankly.
Yeah, I do.
Um,
I agree. I agree. I think he's.
it depends on how well he does in Iowa, whether or not he's going to do well in New Hampshire. He will, regardless of what happens in Iowa, he will show up for New Hampshire, but he's
Yeah.
going to get hammered in New Hampshire.
Well, he doesn't. If he doesn't win in Iowa, he won't have momentum. And Nikki Haley already has the governor of New Hampshire's, his votes, and I think that Chris Christie is going to be helping Haley more than anyone else.
He already has, even though he hasn't specifically endorsed her, and he got a hot mic comment that
Right.
says she's going
I
to
saw,
get smoked,
I
and
saw
I
that,
don't
but
think he means, yeah,
yeah, but it's funny. Christie was the only one who was really strongly anti-Trump.
yeah,
And there was only, I think, one moment when both DeSantis and Haley in the debate, one moment when both of them were very strongly
crit-
anti-Trump,
yeah,
and
they
that
were
was
critical,
and that was in the questioning about if Donald Trump deserves immunity, presidential immunity,
yeah,
and both of them, DeSantis and Haley said, I heard that question, and Donald Trump, he just DeSantis acknowledged that was
he
crazy.
has to be held accountable, and
Yeah,
they also he had a list that was different from her list, okay, but both of their lists were accurate.
yeah,
So at any time, that you see a Republican candidate say stuff that's actually factual,
yeah.
you
Oh
have to
yeah, that's
rejoice. You have to rejoice.
yeah. And well, I rejoiced when I heard DeSantis say, "Oh yeah, that immunity argument." The lawyer, the Trump
Yay.
lawyer, gave the case away, and then Haley, when it was her turn to talk to answer the same question, she said, "This is where we come together with some common sense, where
Yeah,
we
yeah.
understand what Donald Trump's about."
You
And I
actually use the
think,
word common sense.
yeah, this is the breakthrough for Republicans. If you want to cross over a bridge and escape the cult of Trump, because that's what it is. We're trying to help people. We're trying to rescue people from the cult of Trump. And
Mhm.
that was the question that did it. Come on, you can come over, and because everyone still post debate was saying, DeSantis and Haley did not strike hard enough on Donald Trump. They did
Well,
not go
and that's only because they had Christie to compare them to. Okay,
right,
and
right,
now he's not going to be along for that ride. He'll
yeah,
be on the outside. He'll probably still be called on by the major stations for
yeah.
comment, and he'll be appearing on Sunday shows and all that. He's still young enough that he could, if he gets a Republican blessings of a Republican Party of the. Now, there's some people who are talking third party for him.
Well, maybe because you look at third party candidates on the Republican side, or who would be more conservative or moderately conservative. I mean, who's there? I mean, the only third party guys might be Cornel West, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Um, Dean Phillips is a Democrat. Marianne Williamson is a Democrat. You don't
Stein,
need.
Linus,
Oh
Stein.
yeah, Stein. Stein is running. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that Haley's going to win Iowa, and
Wow.
DeSantis is done. I think I
Okay.
no not win. Excuse me. Second place. Right. We're going for
Yeah,
second place.
she's going to be second to Trump.
Yeah. I think I would in a real rational world, people will have heard the arguments in the immunity hearing, and if they were for Trump, they'd say, "Oh, we can't be for Trump. We can't. We can't be for Trump. If you're a Republican, you can't be for Trump. That's not an America you want. Not an
I
America
don't know.
you know. But
Yeah, I
that's
don't know.
not going to happen. See, but I that should happen, but it's not going to happen.
Nah, nah,
That's what.
especially in Iowa. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, like
I
I said, I
mean, come
I
on.
spent 5 days there. 5 days.
You
Five
know, I
days.
mean, what are the states that border Iowa? You know, like
Um,
up above is the Dakotas
yeah, I think
and
Nebraska,
Nebraska and
Kansas, or Missouri.
Kansas, yeah, Missouri. They're all around, and then on the west of that is the Rockies.
Yeah,
So yeah, man. I mean, it's about it's Midwestern, and it's about as isolated Midwestern as you could possibly get.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
when they show Superman's origins, I always think of Iowa.
Iowa. Yeah. Well, I, I think that's what's going to happen. That Nikki Haley will come in second, DeSantis third, Trump will win. We'll go to New Hampshire, and New Hampshire will, could decide once and for all. Because
Yeah,
if Trump wins in New Hampshire and defeats Haley, she doesn't have a prayer. She can't. She's going down to South Carolina. Maybe she wins there, but I don't.
I don't know. That's not a given because
Yeah,
South Carolina went heavy Trump. You know,
yeah, and that's her home state. She gets rejected there. I don't know if anyone wants to put in money behind Haley, but I have to say this: that her positions seemed a little less strident than than DeSantis. DeSantis kept talking about building a wall, like he
yeah,
was just
yeah,
trying
no
to remind.
stupid. Yeah, that was really stupid. You
Yeah,
know,
like just trying
and
to
then
remind
and
you.
then he accused Trump of failing to build the wall. So what is he saying? I would be more successful at Trump at a
Yeah,
failed
that's what he's saying because
at a
he's
failed plan.
that,
Of a
right.
plan that ain't gonna work.
Right. Because all he really wants is to appeal to those Trump people.
That's
But
right. Then and
uh,
Haley was moving inches, maybe millimeters at a time away from that, right? And she was looking for an opportunity to be a little more, as you put it, stridently critical of Trump, right?
yeah,
So she's found her moment, and that's left all the other guys behind, right?
uh,
Especially now that Christie has left. So
yeah, I think that question about Trump's immunity, where she says, "Look, it's crazy. It's we have to have some common sense." I mean, I think that was a real, like, come on, all you cultists,
well,
come with me.
she said two things really strongly that made the common sense remark
Mm,
kind of a summary, right? And
mm,
and what she said was, one, January 6th was an insurrection and it was wrong. It was criminal, okay?
yeah,
And two, that Biden won the election.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Biden won
she
the
said it.
election, okay? So it just takes a little common sense. Now, for somebody to come out and say that finally,
Yeah,
that the big lie was the big lie, right?
Mhm.
That's really important.
Yeah,
So
hard to believe. Hard to believe that we're this into the beginning, and all the other guys wouldn't say it.
nope,
They
nope.
would never. They would not
But what about
acknowledge
when
that
they
they.
all put their hands up, except for
Mm.
Christie, right?
Yeah.
Last year, they all put their hands up and they said, would you vote for a guy that had been a convicted felon?
Yeah. Yeah.
and and one guy put his hand up. I can't remember who did it first, and they all put up their hands. And I said, "Wow, man!"
It's
And America's going to watch this stuff and say, "Yeah, I'm a proud Republican, man. I'm cool."
well, okay. So that's Iowa. Hey, look, it's ironic that Monday is both caucus day in Iowa, and it's
And
also
MLK Junior Day.
yeah. So what do you think? I mean, it happens every year. It's time
Hey,
for us to think
that's the
about.
history of America in black and white.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, so I mean, it happens every year. We think about it. Uh, I find that this year I come into it and I feel differently, like less hopeful that about race in America than I have in previous years.
Yeah, I think there's a program on this evening, and I
Mm,
think it's on MSNBC. I hope I recorded it. I'm gonna have to check, but um, it's about race, and
mm,
the reason I'm interested in it is because I heard a clip on the radio, and it was interviews of college students of
oh,
color, and I don't know which university they were at,
mm,
but the questions were very good. Like, do
yeah,
you feel comfortable? Do you feel stressed? Do you anticipate the possibility of not necessarily assault, but it's kind of micro,
mm,
aggressions and stuff like that. And the responses were right on the money. I mean, they were exactly the kind of thing that I know my own students have suffered in the past. I believe that the campus was Stanford,
mm,
so I'm not sure though. So we got to check on that. But anyway, there's an interesting look now back at race, and it of course is it's provoked or encouraged by the approaching holiday,
yeah,
and we need that assessment. But the former dean of the school, now College of Ethnic Studies, Jim Hirabayashi, the first dean,
mm.
was his brother Gordon Hirabayashi, by the way, was one of the
Oh,
challengers,
yeah, right.
yeah, of the incarceration of Japanese during World War II. Unsuccessful challengers. There were four of them, and Gordon Hirabayashi was one of them, and Jim is his younger brother. Anyway, and Hirabayashi used to say, and he said this publicly more than once, was we have to go through an assessment of what our condition is, uh, not only as an institution of ethnic studies, but the condition of people of color
Mhm.
and people of the intermediate and lower classes. What how is life for us in this society, and we need to do that assessment on a regular basis to make sure that we continue the movement towards equity and justice.
Hey, how about another Kerner Commission report?
That would take bipartisan support.
I know, but the Kerner
We ain't gonna
Commission
get it.
report in the '60s, that was after or during the riots as a way to try to address what's going on with the
Oh
Black
yeah, absolutely.
African American community,
And
and
I'm sure you weren't happy with the results of that report because it's very partial. But
right,
the good news is, at least historically, was there was such a thing as liberal and moderate Republicans.
right, and there were people, we were coming together. I mean, look, you wouldn't have gotten the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act.
That's right,
I mean, you couldn't have had that without some kind of bipartisan support,
absolutely.
and we
And
had it.
The Republicans actually were more favorable early on to the Civil Rights Act than the Democrats, because the Democrats had the Southern Democrats, the Dixiecrats,
Yeah,
right, that were against all that, and they would eventually move to the right and join the Republican Party. That's who we have now: the Midwestern and Southern states that are against anything that has to do with people of color, man.
yeah.
And
Well,
LGBTQ and everything else.
I mean,
Women.
all those things we have now, all those rights that we hold sacred that we've only had for just slightly more than 50 years.
That's right.
There, we come to this MLK Junior Day, and all of it's All of
They're
it's
at
threatened.
greater risk. Yeah, I agree. They're at risk at this moment since they were first passed. There was, of course, resistance when they were first passed, but
Yeah.
slowly but surely, court cases, states and localities, cities started moving towards a greater degree of equity and inclusion. And
Yeah.
but then, beginning about 25 years ago, and if you look at the use of gerrymandering, I
Hmm.
mean, it goes all the way back to 50 years, right?
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, I just am concerned, and I was trying to articulate why I feel bad coming into this
yeah,
MLK Junior
uh,
Day, and maybe it's because we had the SCOTUS ruling about affirmative action last, last year. Maybe we just had this thing with um, Harvard's now former president Claudine Gay, African American, who's booted out, and that really is uh, the second coming of another anti-affirmative action type of push, anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of it is part of that pendulum swing
yep,
going the other
yep.
way. So it
Well,
just
and the
is.
thing that hurts most about the Harvard case around affirmative action is that, like the criticizing law back in
Mm,
the 80s, right?
yeah.
The plaintiffs were Chinese American.
Oh
The
yeah.
majority
Well,
of
the,
the majority of the plaintiffs were Asian Americans, and they were Chinese, ethnicity, and they were being supported by a right wing dude.
yeah,
A
they were
lawful,
used. They were used.
yeah,
Plain and simple. They were used, and it's like it's a crossroads, not just for black and white, but for everyone else, and who's part of this coalition. And either we assess and we uh, strengthen this coalition, or we acknowledge that, hey, there's no real coalition here.
well,
Between.
here's the tragedy for those plaintiffs, right? How are you going to know that you succeeded when you can't even get information on how many people of Asian descent were
Ah, that
admitted in that last class? You
That's
you
why it's
you,
an
you don't know.
ingenious move. It's an ingenious type of a setup by the folks who who press for these restrictions. That they just wanted to stop whatever it was that was going on and not really be held accountable. Just to stop. And this is part of that reversal from the '60s.
Well, and the next step, especially if they do well in November, the next step is employment,
Oh
affirmative
yeah,
action for employment.
yeah. We talked about that, and the other thing is, it's the next step is clearly that and beyond because
Yes.
if Trump gets reelected a second time, he wants to be a dictator, not just the first day, maybe the first week, but he'll do enough in the first week to like make sure he never leaves office.
Well, yeah, because as soon as he leaves, he would be susceptible to the same action that he's suffering under now.
Right.
So,
So
he
it's
would have to die in office. That's basically it.
because to be in office is his best legal argument for he can only be free as president.
That's right.
How is that? I must be president because it's the only way that I can be free. This condition is unique
Yeah.
to me, no one else.
Hey.
I have to be free,
Oh
and so
man.
you must vote
Yeah.
for me. You
Free
must
me,
vote.
protect me, free me, give me your money, and give me the presidency.
Yeah, and
And he
and
and he's succeeding. He's
yeah.
succeeding. He's moving in the right direction. No pun
Oh, it's
intended.
so MLK Day. My daughter when she was young, she was really cute. On MLK Day, she made us make a little chocolate cake and light a candle, and we had chocolate cake on MLK Day. My
What is it? The brown thing or what? What the
I
hell is
know
that?
it's my daughter was like a young kid, like
Yeah.
7 years
Okay.
old. So
Okay.
I forgave. I said, "That's very creative, honey. Don't tell your friends; they might think it's a chocolate cake. It's not a watermelon cake. It's a chocolate cake. You didn't have like fried chicken with it. It's like
Uh,
you know,
did it have
but
a cream filling? Did it have
oh
a
no,
cream?
oh yeah, the white on the inside. No,
It
it was
was
chocolate cake, but it
it
was
was like a
vegan.
large rendition of an Oreo.
No, it was a vegan chocolate cake. vegan chocolate cake. So
Oh
I
no,
thought I thought
that's
it
so
was.
cute. I mean,
I know for a 7-year-old kid to say,
yeah, what
"Mommy,
the hell? That's so
I
romantic. It's
want a
romantic.
chocolate cake."
I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
we will celebrate this day,
yes,
MLK Day,
yeah.
and
Well, and who was most resistant in the pantheon of presidents? Who was most resistant to the commemoration of a day dedicated to MLK Jr.?
hmm. I, let's see, Bush.
Nope.
Came after Bush. Reagan? No, not
Yes,
Reagan.
yes, yes.
Reagan? Reagan?
Bush came after Reagan. It was
Yeah.
Reagan.
Well, I was thinking. I
Reagan
think.
said he is he was suspected by
Oh,
the FBI. He was being investigated by the FBI as having communist connections.
oh yes, yes.
Socialist inclinations.
I knew about that. But see, now this is the thing. If he had presidential immunity, he would have just had it happen,
Well, how do
right?
we know that didn't happen?
Well, that's
Somebody had
true.
him assassinated. Somebody had him assassinated in the
Well,
70s.
that's the thing. This is the thing that makes Trump's idea of presidential immunity so dangerous. But anyway, I didn't know Reagan was behind that. I knew J. Edgar Hoover was
Yes, he
behind.
was. But when Reagan cited Hoover and cited the FBI's investigations, and he resisted. And the last state, I think, to
Arizona, right?
yes, yes, and it was because the NFL held the Super Bowl away from him. They said, "Nope,
Right.
we're not going to have it over there."
Yeah, it's funny you think that it would just be, oh, of course, an MLK Day, but
No, man, he's
uh,
black. He's black, man. We don't want to. This is going to be the first time in the history of the United States of America we got a black holiday, man. A
yeah,
holiday based on a black man's experience.
yeah, and now we take it for granted. But
Yep.
the same thing's
Yep.
happening to Juneteenth, right?
Yeah.
People say Juneteenth.
Well, yeah, but
Why are we
how
having a
about
Juneteenth?
California? California being Chavez Day, right?
Oh, do we have a check? Did,
Yeah, we got a Chavez Day.
do we get it off?
Some
I've been working on Chavez Day. I want my overtime.
some get it off, some don't. I don't know. I haven't
Just a
checked the
state day.
pattern lately, but
Just a
I
state.
think grade schools get it off, like that.
Oh, they get everything.
Anyway,
All right,
all
so
right, we got
MLK
one more
Day
thing
on
to go.
Monday.
We got Koi.
A couple other things. So, Joe Coy had a week, and I I I I'm proud to say I'm one of the few Filipinos, um, who have defended him. I mean, I was surprised at, and I wrote my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, also on Inquirer.net, and I just said, hey, it wasn't that bad. He got laughs, and this is one of the things, though, that are one of the reasons why comics like Kevin Hart's come out to defend Joe Coy, Whoopi Goldberg, Steve Martin. They've all said, "Hey, these guys telling jokes, and the chemistry of the audience, the reaction of the audience, the makeup of the audience, it all that all plays a part in what kind of reaction you get. And if you are among pampered elites who don't want to laugh, who think the whole world's around them, who's thinking about something else, who's not even paying attention to you in your room, in the room there at the Beverly Hilton, you might get a tepid response. And look, I've been in that room. I've been in the Beverly Hilton. I hosted an award show in the early 2000s. I know how small it is. And we weren't as big. We didn't fill it all up like the Globes. They pack it in, but that room
Did
is.
you have an open bar? You didn't have an open
We didn't
bar. That
have
was
an
the
open,
problem.
but that room is
See?
small. That room is
Oh yeah,
small, and
sure.
I just remember thinking, God, this is where the Globes are. This is where they have the Globes here, and so I know what that flop sweat is like. I mean, you are really very close to the audience, and we can't, because the way the show is mic'd. we just should enjoy the show as a TV audience. And there were a lot. You can hear people laughing. I don't think they juiced it up because I watched it live the first time around. Joe Coy got some laughs. He didn't kill.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't kill. He did, but he didn't bomb either. And but the way the internet responded was because he told a Barbie joke about her boobs, about plastic boobs, which Greta Gerwig says, "Hey, Barbie is the first plastic doll. You know, nothing wrong there." And then there was a Taylor Swift joke,
Yeah.
and that's what the internet. You know,
No, you can't do
yeah.
TS, man.
But
You
here's the
cannot
thing
go
about TS, about Taylor Swift. I think the joke was fine. It's a joke anyone can make. It's a joke that a lot of people are making that, oh, there's more shots of Taylor Swift at the NFL than there are here at the Golden Globes because, hey, there's more interesting things at the Golden Globes. A harmless joke. It was so harmless. It was not edgy. It was just a, namby-pamby.
It's a it's just a humorous observation more than a joke.
Yeah, and it would have gotten, as we would say in the comic world, it would have gotten titters, but not a big laugh. A big,
Yes,
a
yeah.
big laugh,
Smiles,
a big, yeah,
smiles, no guffaw.
yeah,
Yeah, titters. I like
a
titters.
big laugh is 3 to 5 seconds, and he actually stepped on it. It would have gotten 3 seconds to 5 seconds, but he stepped on it because he started getting nervous. Joe Coy. He
Right.
started apologizing, and I thought, God,
I didn't write this.
yeah. He started, but I think he did.
No, dude, don't do
I
that.
think,
Don't do that.
well, I think Joe Coy did much better than he thought, or than the internet, fed into his, his
Okay,
Twitter
I
feed.
agree with everything you said, and when you have somebody as powerful as Kevin Hart, right? Doing that stuff because he gets away with murder,
Yeah.
man. But
Well, he's not that
it-
funny all that time, but you know what?
no, not
If
always,
you
not
if you
always.
like
But
him and if he's likable and you know him, you root for him. And
yeah,
unfortunately, Joe Coy isn't as well known. He's not a. As they
no,
know him now.
that's number one. Number one is he's not that well known, so people didn't. They had no expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, positive or negative, and so that's not a good place.
Right.
Okay, because they are having expectations, even though they don't know what to expect. They are having expectations. Make me laugh.
Yeah.
That's the challenge,
Yeah.
right? Make me freaking laugh. And so that's number one. Number two, the material wasn't that funny.
Well, it was okay. I mean, it was
Well, yeah,
serviceable.
but see, just okay. You got to have a couple of real knockdown
Well,
scenes.
look, if
You
you
got to
all
have
right,
one, at least one or two.
the way you have some real knockdowns is you got to be edgy, and he had some that he was capable of, like when he said, oh, here's the Indians. Here's what I learned from the Martin Scorsese movie. White people stole everything from the Indians. See that's an edgy joke, and once again, he didn't get the kind of response he wanted, so he kind of cut it short. Hey, I don't hear you.
Oh,
Oh, there
okay,
you go. There you go.
yeah. Yeah, my video is about 3 or 4 or 5 milliseconds behind my audio.
Oh,
So
okay. All right. Well. Look. Let me just say this about Joe Coy, that it was okay, but it would have been better if Travis Kelsey were in the audience, and if Travis Kelsey got up and said, "Take my pop star's name out your mouth."
yeah, and then went up and slapped him.
Yes.
Oh my, that
Yeah.
might be
No,
deadly.
not something.
That could be
He could have
deadly.
killed. He could have like tackled him or blocked him, do a rip
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah,
That would have
yeah.
been that would have blown up the internet. Would have
That's
blown
right.
up the internet.
That's right. Now, okay. My third thing about Joe Coy.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to his shows,
No, I've only seen. I don't see.
like on the internet?
I've seen a lot of his,
YouTube.
not a lot, but I've seen a couple of his things, on Netflix. And look, he is a darling of Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg loves Joe Coy, and that's one of the things that is, I think, saving him. That he's got support from people in high places.
Yeah. Well, his movie wasn't that great, and we have been to his
Yeah,
shows, and they were okay.
yeah,
He wasn't. There are other people that are on that circuit, on the Filipino circuit, who started on the that I think are way funnier.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Like friend. Our
Well,
old friend.
they're different. They're different in humor,
Yeah,
but the guy that's most connected with some of the people that have really done well, like Ali Wong,
yeah.
right, is actually Kevin Kamiya,
Oh yeah, Kevin Camilla. Yeah,
and Kevin is, he's really good. He's good at the humorous or observational stuff, and he's really good at the interracial stuff,
yeah,
particularly if beyond just Filipinos and white people, but just getting big, expanding on the tensions and comical relationships among and between different ethnic groups,
yeah.
right? Um, he's really good at that. Rex has never come out of his Filipino core centered humor,
Mm.
right? And it really is funniest in an audience made up of two groups of people, and that's Filipino Americans and Filipino immigrants.
Right.
Because and then the biggest challenge is Filipino immigrants, right? Because their sense of humor is really different
Oh
from a
yeah,
Filipino American sense of humor.
yeah. No, you're right. I don't know Kevin. I know of his work. I know his sister, Kat,
Okay.
Kat Camilla. Um, but I know he's funny. I know he's a funny guy, and I know he's also generationally he's a Filipino American, born
Yes.
here. So he talks about different things. Rex, uh, I know, you know, I've, but you're right, Filipino American and Filipino immigrant, and they love him. I haven't seen a lot of Joe Coy because I've tried to just see selective bits because I don't want to be too influenced by anything he says, or I don't want to do anything that would seem similar. But see, like even when I do my shows, I have a different kind of thing. I have definitely a Filipino American thing, but am in touch with Filipino roots. So it's
And Joe Coy is definitely Filipino American, but he has a limited
sense of it.
routine. Well, he has a limited kind of inclusion of inter-ethnic
Yeah.
jokes, and but what surprised the hell out of me at the occasions that we've gone, particularly one at Chase, where the huge audience,
Mm,
right, 20,000 people, and it was packed,
mm.
was a lot of Latinos.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an immigrant experience. It's also, people who know Filipinos. It's not necessarily a Filipino American experience. And here's the thing about Joe Coy that I didn't realize. He's only half Filipino.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I thought, because his real name is Joseph Herbert, and his father was white, his mother, and you know, we all do. We talk about our moms, and his mom
Yeah,
is
wasn't it? I think it was his grandma that gave him the name Joe Coy.
Joe Coy. I don't
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah. It was a female family member. I kind of
yeah,
remember that.
but I know that he was, he talks a lot about his mom. His mom is very
Yeah,
supportive,
that's a
and
core.
that's the core, and
Yeah,
that's the way it is with a lot of our, when we talk about ourselves, our families. So look, I defended his right to be there and to, um, you know, at best, when you're at a gathering like that, and Kevin Hart said this, he said that, maybe comedians, and this is the consensus of a lot of comedians now, maybe this isn't the gig that we all want or need. I mean, it puts you out there, you get seen by 9.4 million people, 9.4 million households. It's a lot, you know. People in Hollywood, they know you. Uh, but when you look at actual stage time, you got 11 minutes up top.
yeah.
I,
It's really minutia.
yeah, I mean, compared to a 3-hour show, 11 minutes up
Yeah,
top, and then like
yeah,
maybe 30 seconds in between, like maybe twice an hour. It was like, who the real host was the guy who says, coming up next on,
yeah. That's
the
right.
guy who was doing the
some of the presenters actually had more on stage time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they had,
because they presented like three different awards, right?
yeah, and they had skits, and they had so yeah, yeah. There's easy. I mean, Ali Wong could have been a.
Yeah, yeah,
She turned it down. Kevin Hart, not Kevin Hart, but Chris Rock turned it down. Apparently, according to reports, and Joe Coy gave an interview yesterday in the LA Times, and he said that if I was going to give a grade to myself, I give myself an A+. So, no lacking for self-worth. You know,
yeah. Right. No,
he's
no,
got,
and that comes through in his show, actually.
yeah. So,
You know,
it's, he's not,
he kind of is a male version of Ali Wong in a lot of ways because what he does is he eventually brings it around to some kind of sexual behavior.
mhm,
You know,
right.
and Ali,
I've seen her,
female, male or not.
yeah,
Oh, she's very salty, very salty.
body. She is body. Bo- B-A-W.
Body, BAW. No, man,
B-A-W-D-Y.
she's beyond body, man.
Body. No,
She's
I've seen her
salty.
live in a small setting, and I've seen her in a large setting. And
And was she different?
uh, you know, in a small setting in a club, like a 200-seat club,
Yeah,
she's in your face.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely in your face. In
yeah,
a big theater like say the Masonic in San Francisco, it seats about like 3,000-4,000 people, I think. She's small,
right.
on
Well, she's
stage.
small
Yeah,
anyway.
she's small anyway.
physical,
But
physical stature.
but
Yeah,
but she's loud. She comes across.
yeah, she is loud. She
Yeah.
definitely loud.
No,
She be loud. Anyway, yeah, she's and she the situations that she brings up are
yeah,
universal. They're kind of the way that Kevin tends to reach out.
yeah,
It could happen with anybody,
yeah,
but then when you give it an ethnic aspect, it can make things even funnier if people are familiar with a particular ethnic group or ethnic behavior.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I
um,
like that. I liked Ali Wong all throughout, and really, to me, that was not just Joe Coy being the first. He calls himself the first solo Asian to host because the first Asian to host was a co-host situation with Sandra Oh. But I said the first Filipino Asian American because Sandra Oh is Asian Canadian. Did you know that?
yeah,
I
okay,
mean, it's a distinction, but first or first, I think that's great that Joe Coy was able to do that. But also, it's great that Ali Wong and Stephen Yoon did their things in Beef, and because Beef was like, have you seen Beef yet on Netflix?
yeah, I have,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I just thought Beef was probably one of the best Asian American TV series I've ever seen. I mean, it wasn't like sitcom funny. It's not.
No,
It's supposed to be kind of real, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's a drama.
It's comic tragedy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, it's all about people's weaknesses, their foibles,
yeah.
and then the extent, and then what is worse than the foible and the commission of the initial act is the attempt to cover it up, and
It's
to fix it.
this
Yeah,
is the Asian American story, and the only thing I didn't like was they had a thing where David Cho would say, and he's spent some time in jail. He would say when something bad happened, he would say, "Damn those Filipinos!" It says Filipino.
yeah, that's right.
It's
That's
a
right.
Filipino.
That's right. They had to hook us in.
Damn those Filipinos. I mean, he didn't say any Filipinos. There could have been some Filipinos. There were no Filipinos. There should have been. There should have been some. Damn those Filipinos. So
Yeah, I saw a couple of my old friends, same generation as me, do cameo things in that,
yeah,
and they some of them are friends on Facebook, right? And so I saw some of them flash flash scenes that they were in,
yeah.
and I said, "Too short, man. Your part was too short." I mean,
Hey,
as soon as I told my wife, "Oh yeah, I know that guy,"
I
he said,
I thought it was a great representation of the modern Asian American experience that you don't see. I mean, it gets in the immigrant experience, but in a modern way. It gets in the 1.5 experience, the evangelical experience. It gets in the successful Asian American experience. You know,
Yeah. What about the tension between white culture and Asian culture?
oh, that yeah, yeah,
And I mean, both of them had to suffer.
yeah,
The Orientalism, right?
yeah,
Factor. They both had to suffer that and subordinate themselves to racist microaggression,
yeah,
by unknowing and insensitive white folks, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
I tell you, beef. I think every Asian American should re-see it every year. Just,
Ew. Ew.
you should binge it every just to see the hero's journey, right?
Right,
Just
right,
the
right.
tail end is a kind of an experience. It's like so yeah, beef,
Yep.
and Joe
Yep. The whole
Coy.
thing around what is the whole thing about the tension around what is art, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
That stuff. I thought that was some of the funniest stuff. I mean, and it's not laugh out loud funny, right? It's not like major guffaw right now funny, but
I
it's this humorous reference to a completely stupid expression of art form, and it's like
well,
it's so ridiculous, right? That nobody would buy that
yeah,
shit,
but
right?
the thing is, I don't think. I mean, there was enough. I think for a multi-part episodic limited series like that, you're not looking for a real guffaw type, but you're just looking. This is where you're settled in, and you like the characters, you like the people, you're getting to a groove. I mean, I swear, we watched it here, and we were just going to watch the first 10 minutes, and let's watch again. Let's watch the next one. Let's watch, and then soon it was like we've been watching this thing for 4 hours, 5 hours, and it was
I got a guffaw. I had a guffaw moment.
yeah, there were some guffaw moments, but there were also some like just really there were some jaw-dropping moments, as the arc of the story goes,
Right.
no, I thought it was great. Beef.
Yeah, well, it won an award, and I think
Oh,
it
it
deserved an
won the
award.
major TV award, really.
And I thought it was a big award. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It wasn't a side award or something like that. Best screenplay or something. It was right up front, and she looked honestly surprised.
Yeah, well, look how
She
far back
accepted
they
the
put
award.
him. They put him so
Yeah.
far back when they won, they had to like travel from Orange County to LA, to get and I think that was just because well, maybe they didn't think Beef had a chance, but I'm glad it won, and I hope it's nominated for some Emmys. I hope they win there. The movie that surprised me that didn't get much play at the Globes, but could at the Oscars, because it won the National Critics Award and it's won some critics awards throughout the country. That's Past Lives, a Korean American or Korean movie, Korean American collaboration about an immigrant who comes here. She hangs out with a buddy who she hadn't seen in like 30 years, and they meet in New York. It's how they see each other, how they try to connect. Again, it's a very soft, intense, human movie, and once again, it captures the experience of being a Korean in America and being a Korean American in a way that you usually don't get in movies. But Past Lives, check it out. Have
I will do
have you
that.
heard about it?
And we kept on passing it up because I was always looking for action flicks. But
Actually,
anyway,
just play it faster, at fast speed. 3x. Oh, it's very it can be kind of slow, but I saw it in the theater. I loved it. If it goes to video, and as it will probably in a month or so, I'll see it again. I really liked it. I really like Past Lives. Check
all
it out.
right, we'll
All right,
definitely check it
all
out.
right. So we talked about Joe Coy, and he's going to survive. He's going to be okay. But he's on a world tour now, which
Yeah,
ends in Antwerp,
good
Belgium,
for him. Oh,
and
so he's following up behind Metallica. Some of my
yeah,
buddies
tonight.
Metallica.
Tonight he is in St. Louis, and he's got a few seats unsold. but he's going through a lot of Midwest cities, and I don't think he's selling as well in Louisville, Kentucky. But he's doing well. I mean, he sells out theaters. He's a professional comic. Uh, he's not going to let any of this globe stuff is he's going to eat off it, right?
Right.
Because it's
Well,
going
he
to,
got some, the positive side, he got some exposure, and he's just got to come up with great stories, great jokes.
yeah, yeah.
You
All
know,
right, so just a couple things I want to mention before I say goodbye, and that is we talk about the Warriors all the time. Oh, before we get to the Warriors, Bill Belichick,
yeah, that's right.
the
He's moving
New
on,
England Patriots, he got fired.
moving on. So
Sometime,
Nick Saban in the college level, and Bill
yeah,
Belichick at the NFL.
I like Nick Saban,
Yeah,
but Belichick I never loved. Even when I've seen him throughout his career. Um, I'll say this: I love newspapers and newspaper headlines. And here's Belichick in the New York Times, and this is why I get the paper because, and maybe you can get this online off your iPhone,
yeah, I get
uh,
it online.
but the headline: the glowering man behind New England's joy, and there was Bill Belichick. And
Yeah,
to me, that just tells the story. They say the picture tells 1,000
it
words.
kind of captures his personality. Yep.
And that headline, the picture captures Belichick, but the headline captures the story. I don't even have to read the lead. I know enough to know the glowering man behind New England's joy. He brought him Super Bowls, he brought him championships, but what an asshole. That was it. I mean, to
Okay,
me,
so that's okay. Okay, we can use that word on this. Okay.
well, okay, I just used it, but I guess that's as a part of an anatomy, as a
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of versus swearing.
yeah.
But I promise never to use it again. Never to use it again. But so
Yeah,
that
you
thing,
could call him. I would call him a sphincter.
a sphincter. Okay,
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
better,
What a
better
sphincter.
euphemism.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, he's gonna wind up on his feet. And he doesn't need another job. It's just that he doesn't have anything else to define his life. That's
Well,
just
yeah.
it.
Well, a lot of them are like that, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the co-stars. That's it. Football is my life. They said it when they were 12 years old, and here they are at 72.
And this is the tragedy of my life. When I played Pop Warner football and was MVP for the Mission Vikings, I said football is my life. And
Yeah.
did anyone listen to me?
The
No.
reason they call it Pop Warner is because that's the sound that you made with the helmet clash.
Yeah, that's the reason
Distinctive
why
funk.
that's a reason why my brain is the way it is too.
Yeah.
I'm sure. They're not testing any Pop Warner football stars
You know.
for CBE or
Oh, they're
MBE,
talking about
whatever.
reducing it to flag now for
Oh
kids
yeah.
under 12. Kids under
Well,
12.
I think flag football would be a good idea, but I'll tell you, when
Yeah,
you
but they're
are
still going to need protection.
oh yeah, yeah, you still need protection. You need some kind of like the rugby
Yeah.
guys
I mean,
because
collisions happen, man.
I just think that if you get a chance to play tackle football, whenever you do, Pop Warner, high school, up a little high school, college, if you're fortunate to play college. I wasn't fortunate to play Ivy League football, but and then if you're fortunate enough to play pros,
Well,
XFL, whatever. Um, it's great. It's great to play football. Football's I remember, you know, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the grease paint, the roar of the crowd. I remember it. I remember it. To this day, it's great. You lost Dan. Dan, Dan's heard my Pop Warner stories. Mission Vikings. Mission district in San Francisco, mostly like brown immigrant people, working class whites. They called us the Vikings, named for the most Nordic white people of the world. We were conquerors, and actually, we lost a lot of games. Built character, but we we were able to see forward to modern football because we had a running quarterback. We had a quarter because you put your best athlete at quarterback. I was a running back. I couldn't throw, and still, they could have put me at quarterback. We would have just run. But we had this one guy who would run the bootleg. Like every third or fourth play, we'd run a bootleg. And Bobby Strike was his name. And Bobby, he could fake. So he'd fake to me going right. Then he'd bootleg left and go for a touchdown. It was fantastic. Man, I remember those games. I'm telling you. I know some people relive their college days. Some people relive their high school. Whenever you play football, whenever you play, you remember those moments. Except, the defenses are different now. The offense is a little different. Not much. They throw a lot more now. When you're playing Pop Warner, they didn't throw that much. All right, I guess Dan's not going to join. I guess Dan got frozen out. His internet. Oh, no, I think there he is. And let's see.
Your end. I could see myself, but I couldn't see you.
So, Dan, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
So, Dan, I just talked to the folk about my college or my Pop Warner football career. But I do want to talk one last segment in sports about a topic that we generally end up on, especially at this time of the year, especially when the 49ers are on a bye. And that is the Golden State Warriors.
The Warriors.
I was afraid to think that it was over 3 weeks ago. But this second blowout game, I think everyone has come to the conclusion that the Warrior dynasty is done. It's done, right? I mean, they're not. They don't have the pieces to
I hate
get.
to have to agree with it. Yeah, it's clear they're on a downward slide, and Kerr hasn't come up with a way of getting them to play better. The talent and everything, but the fact of the matter is that the Splash Brothers aren't as flashy, especially Mr. Thompson, and they need more than that, and they have it in the youth. Now they're talking about trading. They're talking about trading J.K. maybe.
Jonathan Kuminga. Yeah. Well, he's the only one who has any real value. But the disappointment besides Thompson, of course, is Wiggins, and then Draymond Green. I thought they should have gotten rid of last year instead of Poole. Now maybe Poole could have, would have been different than he is now in Washington had he stayed. But they gave up on Poole, and that now I think is more mistake than not. They kept Draymond, which is a mistake.
Yeah, that is haunting them. Yeah.
Yeah, because now it's
anyway.
Like if you're going to be a championship team, you're going to be a championship team for a little bit, and then you're going to be the championship team of the senior center. You're going to go down a notch, and it's like aging in place, right? You're at the top of the world. You go nowhere. You're still who you are, so you are no longer in the big league, and you start playing in the lower league, or you start. Like I said, that they have to accept if they don't do anything to change their personnel, because these guys aren't robots. They're going to be who they are, which are they're going to be older players, slower, smaller, and less athletic, and that's going to be it. So you're having all kinds of problems with your.
I am having all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and you live in that big metropolitan.
Internet don't like me. I don't know what's going on. I had a problem early this afternoon, and it screwed up my class. I was teaching an online class.
Ooh. Well, all right, that's okay. Well, so we'll wrap up. So you agree with me that the Warriors are done? How about this?
Yeah, I begrudgingly I have to agree with you. I think there are ways that they got to keep Curry because he's the brand name, right? But
They could get rid of him and get four new players to play with their
their younger
lesser.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
I mean,
Well, it's true. It's true.
I
But
mean, there are, but other teams that you don't know of, you don't hear of, and they're so much they're younger and like even Sacramento,
yeah,
Sabonis,
Sacramento's really good.
yeah, Sabonis is good, De'Aaron
Well,
Fox is good, Malik Monk is good.
look at all of the teams. Look at all the teams that have been spending the last 2 and 3 years building their youth squad. Right?
Yeah,
They beat us. They beat us, and
yeah,
and some of them beat us pretty badly. Most of the games were close.
yeah,
When we lost, but they beat us really badly in a couple of instances, and it's because they had speed.
yeah,
They had two things that we only started addressing recently. One of them is height, so we got a little more, but the other one
I
was
think
speed.
you have to be a little bigger than 5'6". I think that stands to reason.
Hey
I
man,
know. So
hey
five,
man, hey man. Okay, well I have a 29-inch inseam, so what the hell, right?
yeah. Well, so
I'm at
yeah,
least not one of those short-legged versions of,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I just think it's sad, but because people were so reluctant to deal with it. But
Well, we still are because we have the romance of the championships, man. I mean, that's hard to
yeah,
dump.
in 2017,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we were so far ahead. I say we, the Warriors, so far ahead of all the teams.
yeah,
They
because
didn't
they
go
had
hit
won so
them.
many games. Yeah, that's right.
They would
Untouchable.
they looked like they were going to go undefeated at one point, or like lose like one game or two games.
Yeah, that's true.
And every game was like they'd win. That I know. It's almost like a rec league team. You know, there's so much. You get all the good players in your team, then and having coached a rec league team that acted that way, I kind of related, and it's too bad because you didn't teach people how to lose, and now the Warriors are learning how to lose. Although they did lose a couple years ago, right?
Yeah,
Not last year, but they won
a year
the year,
before. Yeah,
and the year before that they were losers. They came back and won. Then last year they lost. They could have gone a little further last year.
yeah.
That's when Wiggins was good, but Wiggins this year doesn't. His heart isn't in it. Andrew Wiggins.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I was surprised because Kerr did give he must be listening to somebody that thinks like me, but he did give him a lot of playing time 2 games ago.
Wiggins. Yeah,
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 I
they
mean,
did. But then people said, "What? What are you doing playing Wiggins?" And now they're
and,
giving Kaminga
right,
more time.
right.
I I think if you give Wiggins time to play, either he plays himself into shape or he lets people see that he's not that bad.
That yeah. Anyway, I gotta go, man, because I don't want to keep breaking up your show with my lousy internet feed here.
That's all right, man. Hey, listen, Dan, thank you very much for coming. Happy MLK Day and
This was a long one. Yeah, the
happy
irony of MLK Day,
yeah
and
on
don't forget who resisted. You know,
who
it's just Mr. Reagan was the
oh
guy,
yeah,
and
MLK Day. All right, there he goes, Mr. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, my friend. We'll replay this if you missed any or all of this throughout the weekend, through the long weekend. But thank you for being with us. Fridays usually are our show that we just sort of like let loose and talk about things. So it's usually a little longer than normal shows. Normal? What's normal, Emil? What's normal? I know. What's normal? Thank you. Thank you for being with us. As the airlines say, both the airlines with bolts on doors as well as the airlines that don't have the bolts on doors, thank you for choosing us. We know it's your choice. You have your choice of internet talk shows. especially ones that don't let you talk. We're here Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, live, talking about the news. I'm Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you, Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. This is our talk show, our micro talk show. From an Asian American perspective, because, WDAAAT, what does an Asian American think? No one ever asks that. And if you, go to the front, rewind this, you can see what I say about Judge Florence Pan, see what I say about the Iowa caucuses. I bring on Dan Gonzalez. We talk about the Houthis, talk about all the stuff in the news. And then MLK Day. Joe Coy. We wind up talking about the Warriors. Sometimes you have to lose, right? All right. We leave with a little loving kindness. Loving kindness. That's a meditation that saves. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal